Welcome to the EOB podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Ben No, and joining me is Sen Dong. So, hey, Sen, you're back.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have your kids with you, so they'll be chiming in from time to time.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll just ask them for the comments.
We don't have to ask them for their comments. They'll give it to us regardless.
Right. Okay, so let's begin. Obviously, you weren't here last week, so I have to do the podcast by myself. And, I know how LeBron James felt during the playoffs.
How was he feeling?
Tired. I mean, I had to do everything.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I know. I had no help.
Yeah.
I mean, when we started this podcast, we were thinking like not one, not two, not three,
Oh,
etc.
yeah, I
podcast,
know.
but our streak ended.
All right, let's do this.
Okay, let's do this. Hey, okay, Jurassic World has another monster weekend. It made 54 million. 500 million so far, and that's just domestic, right? And
Well, I think it's the quickest film. Quickest film to 500 million, right?
yeah, I don't know. It's like it has the biggest opening ever, right?
Yeah.
Basically, we weren't expecting Jurassic World.
Yeah, no one was. No one was talking about it as like, hey, this is gonna be the biggest movie of the year. Everyone was just thinking it's either Age of Ultron or the new Star Wars. And then Jurassic World kind of popped out of nowhere.
Right, right. And well, talking about Star Wars, I mean, it might still have a chance.
Oh yeah,
To
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah,
the biggest
definitely.
opening ever. I mean, but that's a couple months away. So
I kind of doubt it because movies that open during Christmas, the openings tend to be significantly lower. You rarely see record-breaking opening weekends, but what you'll see is very leggy. Like you'll make week after week, you'll do the same amount.
true. Normally, I would agree with you there, but we're talking about Star Wars. It's a cultural phenomenon.
Mhm.
So who knows? This is a movie where people would take days off
That's
to
true.
watch.
I just think sometimes the hype goes into overdrive, and then sometimes you don't look at the statistics for Christmas. Usually, opening weekends, or I mean, they're big, but when you're talking about record breaking, I think during Christmas you're talking about like 90 million, 100 million, not like
Mhm.
200 million. So I'm thinking from 100 million to 200 million might be too much, but hey, there's always a first, and there's Star Wars, like you said.
Right, right, right. Okay, before we turn this into Star Wars, let's get back
Oh
to
yeah,
Jurassic World.
right. I know the third weekend, another good hold, especially for a film that opened that's doing gangbusters weekend after weekend. So 52.2 million. Are these the final figures?
No, these are just still estimates, but hey, they're pretty close.
Yeah, I can see Inside Out being number one.
Well, look, Inside Out, it's like 2 million away. I mean,
Yeah.
in the estimates. So
So you still think Jurassic World will end up on top?
yes, because we're not talking about a million. We're talking about 2 million, estimate here. So
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: we're talking about 50 something million in box office. So I think a couple million they could have fudged.
that is true.
Universal could have fudged the figure a little bit just to get the number one, the top spot. Because I think on Friday, Inside Out was on top, right?
Not quite sure. They were pretty close. So
Oh, okay, I see. I see. On Friday, Inside Out was just like a couple thousand more, but on Saturday, I think Jurassic World made like a million or two more. So it could be, yeah. Looks like the rankings could hold, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think the amazing thing about Jurassic World is that the drop off is like less than 50%, even in
Yeah,
its third weekend. I
yeah,
mean, I think that even in the second weekend, I think the drop off was like 49.
yeah,
So
yeah,
normally the drop offs are kind of like in the high 50s,
yeah,
or if
yeah.
not more, but less than 50 is awesome.
Yeah, it's still holding up. Word of mouth is still good. I think even though it is the fastest film to reach 500 million, I think on the third weekend, the first Avengers actually made more on the third weekend. I think. But nonetheless, it's like every week we're talking about a new record being taken down by Jurassic World.
Yeah, I mean, it's, have a couple of surprises this year.
Yeah,
The past couple of months, like with the American Sniper, then we have Jurassic World, Fury 7.
yeah, Furious
Yeah,
7, yeah.
yeah, yeah. How about we move on to number two?
Yeah, Inside Out. Yeah, despite such a huge opening weekend, it's holding up really well. Only a 42% drop off.
Yeah, and like I said in last week's podcast, it's the first movie to not pick no, the first Pixar movie not to open number one, but it is the second highest opening in Pixar history, behind Toy Story 3. We say it came in second. I mean, hey, it made a lot of money.
Yeah, and this week it made 52.2 million. After 2 weeks, it's already made 185 million. And the word of mouth seems to be, by its relatively small drop off, seems to be really good.
I caught it over the weekend. I thought it's one of Pixar's better movies.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. I know you kind of reviewed it 2 podcasts ago. You weren't that high on it. You say you admired it more than you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But, I thought it was, one of Pixar's better movies. It follows the theme of parents and child. Instead of the parents being the girl's real parents, the parent figures are really her emotion inside her head. They're trying to take care of her. They're her right. I thought it was, well done.
I brought my kids to see it after the press screening. I didn't think they would like it, but they kept on nagging me to take them to see it. So I took them to see it, and surprisingly, both of them liked it a lot. And it stuck with them. They were talking about it, and my daughter even drew pictures of it afterwards. So it surprisingly connected to them more than I thought it would, because I thought it might be one of those films that adults would enjoy more because you're talking about emotions and there's such abstract subjects that I feel like kids might be bored by it, but surprisingly they're not. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, wow, they did a really, like I said, it's like one of those films that you admire, and as time goes on, I admire it even more. When you think about it, the overall plot outside of the emotions is just they move, a family move from one place to another, and the daughter has trouble dealing with it.
Right. No, it's just a story about parents tend to try to keep their children happy. And they it's one of those movies that says, hey, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to experience all these emotions. It's more a message to parents saying, hey, let your children grow. Give them room. And the emotions, if you think about it, they're not really the girls' emotions. It's more like the parents. The parents of if you project the parents into the emotions, it's just basically like joy. Could represent either parent. Right.
No, right. I think my point was I'm glad that they kept the story simple so they could focus on her emotions. Like I can totally see how a movie like this can go completely out of control if the external storyline wasn't kept simple. Like it's just a story about a family who had to move from one place to another because of a job, and the daughter is trying to figure out how to deal with this. And they kept that simple, and then that way it allowed them to focus on all the characters inside the little girl's head to see what's in her mind.
It's kind of the same thing with Toy Story, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it allows them to focus on what they really want to focus on, which are the little characters inside your head. All right, let's move through this.
Okay, all right. So that's Inside Out. Let's move on to number 3. Okay. Coming in number 3 is Ted 2, the sequel to 2012's Ted, starring Mark Wahlberg and Seth MacFarlane as the voice of the teddy bear. It underperformed with 33 million. The first movie made 54, but people weren't that interested in the sequel.
It's very disappointing, but 33 million, especially compared to the first. It seems like Seth MacFarlane's humor is already wearing people out.
Might be so, but I thought it did better. Last week I was predicting like a 40 to 45 opening. Something like that, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if it made less because of Jurassic World and Inside Out. And,
that's true.
Ted 2 really wasn't a sequel people were asking for. There are some returning characters, but I think Mila Kunis wasn't there anymore, so they have to kind of take the story to a different direction. For a sequel, I thought it did pretty well, even though it's not up there with the original. And comedies, it's hard to make a sequel.
Yeah, it seems like this is one of those one-offs that are good the first time you see it, and that humor works. It kind of has a South Park feel to it. Like when South Park was first popular, people were very shocked and surprised and thought it was funny that all these little kiddie characters are cussing and swearing. But then after that, South Park really had a really huge drop-off. And then it still works for its core fan base, but it no longer has that mainstream appeal. Ted has the same thing. It's like the first time people see this cuddly bear, saying crazy stuff, the first time they hear it, it's funny, but the second time, the effect has already worn off. Kind of like, the second Avengers. After people saw all those characters assembled together, that freshness has worn off. And Ted 2 is one of those. It's kind of like that. Because the thing with sequels is like, you've seen sequel to comedies do pretty well. Even the Ace Ventura movies, the second Ace Ventura did really well.
Right. I mean, the thing with comedies is most of them are like kind of situational. They're more physical comedy, and like story-wise, they're kind of bare. Well, bare. But anyway, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like sequels to comedies are really hard because like you need to have a story and then you have to make it funny. So that's tough.
I guess it depends. Jim Carrey can keep on if he had wanted to, he could have cranked out more Ace Venturas and they would still do really well. But then I think there are some movies where they're kind of self-contained, and then if you try to get out of that, it's kind of hard. Although I wouldn't say Ted is self-contained.
Right. Okay. But yeah. Like I say, 33 million opening is pretty good, But I don't know. The movie might cost what?
I read it costs anywhere from 65 to 85 million.
Yeah. So, because the special effects.
Yeah. Comedy doesn't translate overseas, so it's not going to make a huge amount overseas. So,
well, the first movie did. The first movie overseas made more than the domestic box office. So,
Oh, wow. Okay. Then they'll make a profit.
But we don't know. It could be the same thing where like the first movie, it might be, wow, a talking teddy bear and so cute. It might be with the same sequel. It's like, oh, okay, a talking teddy bear. We've seen that.
Yeah, although even if it doesn't do nearly as well at an $85 million budget, it looks like it'll still make a profit.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't bode well for Seth MacFarlane, though. His post-Ted films have either bombed or disappointed. All right, let's move on to number 4. Max, story about a PTSD dog.
Yeah.
Opened at 12 million. I thought that was a little bit better than I expected.
Okay, Sen, you have to take off. Your kids are calling for you, so I guess I'll continue this on by myself. Talk to you next week then.
Yeah, just like LeBron James, Philly's been overexhausted, and people getting injured and flying.
No, you're like Kyrie Irving. You were playing so well, and then you got a knee injury, and you have to bail.
I know, yeah.
It's just me.
You're gonna have to do it all by yourself.
All right, you take care. You're
gonna have to carry the team.
All right.
All right, see you next week.
All right, bye. Okay, so since Sen has to take care of his kids, it's just me right now. So let's continue with number 4, the movie called Max, the Warner Brothers release. It made 12.2 million over the weekend. I predicted the movie would do like 10, but it overperformed. And it's a story about a bomb-sniffing dog whose handler was killed in action, and he had to come back. And since he's really attached to his handler, he couldn't work with anybody else. And that soldier's brother had to take care of him. And, they form a bond and then start the road to his recovery. And the movie did better because there were some, military families in the South, according to reports, that made this movie into a $12 million opening. So they did okay, considering it is only open in 2,855 locations. So yeah, overperformed my expectations, and I think analysts were pegging the movie, to have a 10 million opening as well. So there we have it. Okay, coming in number 5 is Spy, the Paul Feig, Melissa McCarthy action comedy. It made 7.8 million in its 4th week, 30.5% drop, and it's made 88 million so far. And Tammy made about 80 some million as well. Looks like it's going to cross 90 at some point. And this movie is better than Tammy, so it's going to get there. So another successful comedy for Melissa McCarthy and Paul Feig. The pair is comedy gold. Let's see. And then coming in at number 6 is San Andreas, the Warner Brothers, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's disaster movie about the earthquake happening in California. And Johnson plays a helicopter pilot who has to travel north with his estranged ex-wife to rescue his daughter. Let's see, and so far it made 141 million domestic, and worldwide it's done 439. So it's a really good outing for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. As I said in the previous podcast, this solidifies his status as an A-lister. So he's gonna be starring in more movies. He doesn't need to team up with other actors anymore. So well, he could, but then he'll command like a large chunk of the budget. Let's see, coming in number 7 is the indie movie Dope. Well, we couldn't call it indie since it kind of opened wide. At least it had like a 6 million opening. Yeah, 6 million opening weekend, and then it experienced a 53% drop off in its second week, and it made 2.8 million over the weekend for 11 million so far. So it's kind of successful, I guess. I mean, the movie was very well reviewed, but unfortunately it doesn't have any stars. Even if it's well reviewed, it's probably one of those mini movies that would benefit from a platform release. But I guess there was like a bidding war for it at one of these film festivals, and Open Road paid a lot of money for it, so maybe they can recover their investment. Judging by the reviews, they say it's a very good teen comedy coming of age tale. But yeah, like I say, unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of stars to bring in the people to watch it. And looks like it's gonna do maybe 15 million or a bit more. Maybe it could reach 20, depending on how well it does in the coming weeks. All right, moving on to number 8 is Insidious Chapter 3. It made 2 million over the weekend, and in its 4th week, it has made nearly 50 million so far. Chapter 3 is actually a prequel to the first 2 movies. Since James Wan went on to direct Furious 7, the directing duties went to the writer Leigh Whannell, who made his directorial debut. And considering that it stars new people, Patrick Wilson wasn't in it. Right now it stars Dermot Mulroney. Did pretty well, and it's definitely a successful outing for the first-time writer turned director. So I guess he might try to leverage this into bigger, better things. And number 9 is Mad Max Fury Road. It made 1.7 million in the 7th week, experienced a 42.8% drop, and it made 147 million so far. The movie cost 150 million to make, reportedly. It might cost more, but that's what they report the budget as. So as long as you make the money back domestic, auxiliary income like overseas market, video, cable, etc. will bring the profit. But it's huge overseas, made 209 so far, and worldwide, the worldwide gross is 356 million. So not as big as Warner Bros. Would like it, but all things considered, I think they're pretty happy with this outing, right? It stars Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley. So I think there might be a Mad Max Fury Road 2 sometime down the road, because hey, why not? The movie made money, and Warner Brothers always wants to have more IP to exploit, to make sequels, and it's easier to sell Mad Max Fury Road 2 than coming out with a completely different story. So yeah, I think we might see the sequels sometimes. Okay, rounding out the top 10 is Avengers: Age of Ultron. It made 1.6 million. In its 9th week, so far it made 452 million domestic, and the worldwide gross it's at 1.3 billion. So it's closing in. Let's see, on the all-time chart, it's right now at number 5, just below Furious 7. We won't reach the first Avengers 1.5 billion, and it won't catch Furious 7's 1.5 billion. They're kind of pretty close. But we know that Jurassic World, it's catching up, it's moving on up, so it might take its place in 5th place. So it'll move out of the top 5. And I guess people were, even though it made a 1.3 billion so far, I think people weren't that the reason why I didn't make as much as the first movie. Maybe just people are just not that interested in the formula anymore. Like the team coming together to defeat another villain, trying to save the world from destruction. And of course, and then the team dynamics, there's going to be disagreement among the team members, right? And then they're going to reconcile and then defeat the evil robot at the end. So it's one of those type stories, and people might not want to watch it again, but we'll see. It's like, as I say, 1.3 billion, can't complain. That's it for the top 10. Let's move on to openings. Opening this weekend are Magic Mike XXL, the sequel to the stripper movie starring Channing Tatum, and Terminator Genisys. Okay, let's start with Magic Mike. The first movie was directed by Steven Soderbergh. It made 113 million domestic and 167 million worldwide. And the movie it was like really cheap to make. For the sequel, obviously it has a bigger budget. Most of the characters are returning. I'm not sure if Matthew McConaughey returned or not, but it's one of those movies where they kind of basically more stripping. I guess Tatum's character coming out of retirement for one last dance off or something like that. The first movie opened to 40 million. Amazingly, which is huge for kind of like a tiny budget movie, but then again it has a lot of big stars, and you see all these guys with abs and muscles taking the clothes off, and it's directed by Steven Soderbergh, so you couldn't really say it's an indie movie except that it's made for cheap. The second movie, Magic Mike XXL, is probably gonna have more awareness, but it probably won't reach the level of the first movie, even though I could see it overperforming because they're upping the ante, more stripping, more guys taking the shirt off, more grinding. So I'm putting it at 20 to 30 opening, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if it opened more, overperform maybe into the 35 to 40 range. That's what I'm feeling. But my head says going to go low, but it's possible that could open more. Let's move on to Terminator Genisys, where Arnold Schwarzenegger is back playing the T-800. The movie did a kind of rewriting history, you could say. It takes the bits and pieces we know from the first two and others and kind of rewrite what we knew. And the reviews are pretty terrible. 33% on the tomato meter right now, and it probably won't get any better. It's hard to say how this movie will do, because like the high point of the series was with Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which made 204 million, but that was back in 1991, right? Then Terminator 3 Rise of the Machine made 150, and that those are domestic numbers. Then Terminator Salvation with Christian Bale made 125. Right, so you can see it from the high point of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and then it just drops on from there. So how will Terminator Genisys do? I don't know. Arnold Schwarzenegger is back to playing his iconic role, but he's not a box office draw anymore, even though the brand still has a lot of awareness. But how will he do? This is the thing. Like, fans of the movie there will be still fans of the movie, right? Will it open to 42 million as with Terminator Salvation, even though it's the lowest grossing? Besides the first movie anyway. So how will it do? I am gonna predict that it's gonna have a 30 to 35 million opening, because Schwarzenegger is not the draw that he once was, and this movie doesn't have James Cameron chaperoning it. Emil Clark, Jason Clarke, no relations, and Jai Courtney. I'm not sure they're gonna cut it, and they're planning 2 other movies as well. So I'm gonna predict 30 to 35 million opening for Terminator Genisys. Maybe it could make more, but even though it has a huge opening, it might experience a huge drop off, because it could be one of those movies that are front loaded because of the fans or people who just want to check it out. Okay, that's it for this week. Hopefully next podcast Senh can join us for the full one. So that's it for now, and tune in next week to see how my prediction went. Okay, see you next time. Bye.